Okay, let's call to order the August 26, 2024 regular meeting of the City Council of East Bethel, Minnesota. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Make motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
Motion's made to adopt our agenda. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None heard. So, presentations and public hearings, the Anoka County Sheriff's Office and Lieutenant Derek Peters. How are you today?
Fantastic. Good evening, Mayor
Fantastic,
and
that's
Council. Yeah, it's good to be back. I missed last month. I was on vacation, but it's good to see everybody. So
Did you have a good time?
it was excellent. It was
Excellent.
excellent. It's nice to get
Good.
away and nice to spend some time with family. So I think we all need that from time to time.
Absolutely.
So July had a total of 442 calls for service, which was up from the 422 that we had responded to in June. We had 4 assaults, 4 thefts, and 2 damage to property calls. We made a total of 31 custodial arrests. We executed 135 traffic stops, which resulted in the issuance of 45 traffic citations on our roadways. Some of our more interesting calls that happened in July, one being on July 3rd, deputies responded to a residence in the 1100 block of 231st Lane Northeast. They had information of a male that was staying there that had an active gross misdemeanor warrant out of Wright County. When the deputies got there, they spoke to a male and a female in the driveway of the house while another deputy walked around to the backyard. While the 2 deputies up front were talking to the male and female out front, they witnessed the male in question try to escape out the back of that house. The deputies gave several verbal commands to this male, told him that he was under arrest. They eventually were let in through the front door by another occupant of the home. When they went inside of the house and began checking the interior, they located the male with a warrant hiding inside of a pull-out couch. So I don't know how you hide inside of it, but that happened here in this case. The male was located and taken into custody without incident, transported to jail. On the 6th of July at 1 o'clock in the morning, Deputy Litzner was dispatched to a delayed residential burglary report at a residence in the 1600 block of 229th Avenue Northeast. He arrived and spoke to the residents of the home, who reported that at approximately 11:30, someone had entered the house and was heard walking around the house. They didn't immediately call to report this because they believed the footsteps were that of their new puppy. At around 1 o'clock a.m., the residents began walking around the house and located several items out of place and found that their vehicles had been gone through with property missing from inside of them. Our deputies contacted CID, which is our Criminal Investigative Division, which is our major crimes unit of the Sheriff's Office. We also had our crime scene unit, also known as CSU, out there that evening to physically process the scene for any of that physical evidence. So we're still working on that. The investigation into that continues. It's going to take some time, but hopefully we can gather some information on that and get closure for those folks. On the 22nd of July, Deputy Seafolk stopped a vehicle at around 9:12 near the intersection of Polk Street and Klondike for an equipment violation. The vehicle passed 2 of our deputies with no headlights on or taillights. Deputy Seafolk spoke to the driver, who showed signs of alcohol impairment. Deputy Seafolk had the driver step out of the car to perform standardized field sobriety testing, which he subsequently failed. The driver provided a PVT sample, which reported a preliminary value of 0.14. The driver was arrested and transported to the Sheriff's Office, where he submitted to a DMT test, which reported a final value of 0.13. He was transported to jail and booked on charges of 4th-degree misdemeanor DWI. And then finally, on the 24th of July at 2 o'clock in the morning, Deputy Seafolk again stopped a vehicle at Jackson and 229th for a moving violation. The vehicle was observed to have been seen swerving in its lane and crossed the fog line. While Deputy Seafolk was speaking to the driver, he noticed in plain view a glass pipe commonly used to smoke methamphetamine. The driver did admit to using methamphetamine as recently as 12 hours prior to the stop. Deputy Seafolk conducted some narcotic-specific standardized field sobriety testing on the driver, and that driver was ultimately arrested for DWI as well. On a search of the driver's person, incident to his arrest, a 4-gram baggie of suspected methamphetamine was in the driver's front pocket. Deputy Seafolk applied for and was granted a search warrant for the driver's blood and transported the driver to Mercy Hospital to complete that process. Blood test results are pending, but the driver was preemptively booked into our jail for 4th degree DWI and 5th degree possession of a controlled substance. So we have been speaking earlier before the mics went live here, but hard to believe August is nearly behind us. And our call load in July nearly matched that of our busiest month to date, which was May. And we see our traffic crashes remaining consistent across the board. I think that's a positive considering all the construction that we've had in our area. So assault calls were also down this month, which has been nice to see. I don't know the science behind the ebb and flow of those numbers, but wishing everyone a safe remaining few weeks of summer, and I will stand for any questions if anybody has anything.
Just wanted to cover one thing. There was a dog bite incident last month.
Mm-hmm.
And without going into who was involved or anything else, is there a standard procedure that you guys follow?
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah, so we'll collect statements, like we normally do, who, what, when, where, why, how. We usually collect photographs. We'll fill out a potentially dangerous dog form, things of that nature, and then that will be recycled in front of you folks for discussion later on down the line. So I am aware of what you're referring to, and Matt and I put an action plan together with our deputies out there. Sounds like some things came to light after the fact that after we had responded. And we're currently in the process of getting that stuff resolved. So I think
that had a complicating factor of the victim whacking their head and
yep,
maybe
that's
not
correct.
being real clear about
That's
things.
correct.
Yeah.
So I just checked the report today. Those things are still pending, but I think we've got what we need. And if
You're
there's-
satisfied about how everything was handled?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can certainly discuss offline, and I'm sure we will. And
Yeah.
we'll make sure that everything gets taken care of properly. So.
Okay.
Perfect.
Good. Just wanted to ask you about it. Yeah.
Have you heard much of about little kids getting assaulted up on the north end of town at the bus stop?
No, that was something Matt and I spoke about earlier this week too. I went through the reports. I typed in, what I do is I type the address in and I can look at every single call that we've got. Not to say it didn't happen. I don't know if it went reported or if the deputies responded there and found out that there was nothing to document and didn't complete a report. We have several stipulations that won't require a report, but they should have CAD notes in there. But again, I didn't see anything that would draw my attention to those type of issues. Is there
All right,
anything
well,
specific?
I'll get a hold of you, because I've got a couple names, and you can talk to a few people.
Yeah, just let me know, and we'll
Perfect.
work on it on the back end.
Yep,
So,
good.
certainly.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions? Thank you, Derek.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Stay safe.
So Chief Sanow from the East Bethel Fire Department.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and
Good evening.
Council.
Evening.
I have the July fire report. For the month of July, the fire department responded to 105 calls of service. This has tied the record as one of our busiest months since I've been chief, and I think since I've been on the department. We responded to 80 medicals, 7 accidents, 5 fires, and 3 alarms. As of today, we have responded to 654 calls for service compared to 620 in 2023. At our current trend, we are on pace to respond to about 180 or 985 calls for the year. And that'll bring us up roughly 20 calls above last year. And that at the end. So that, and then with the upcoming Labor Day holiday, we ask that you be extra careful on the road and drive with care. The last couple of weekends, we've had some car accidents and that, so we just want everybody to be thoughtful and watchful out there. And then after Labor Day, school starts. And so the kids will be walking on the sides of the road and everything, going to the bus stops and that. We ask that you be careful driving through the neighborhoods early in the morning and in the later afternoons. Remember that the red flashing lights on bus mean you need to stop, not go around them. And if you can stay at least 50 feet away from the bus when the lights are flashing, that'd be great. There will be increased traffic around the schools, so please avoid them. Avoid the school area if possible at the start and the end of the day. In East Bethel, our schools are located at Polks and Sims. Both schools are in the same area, so that puts a lot of traffic through that area. I live over there, so I know what it's like.
Yep.
And that. Then with open burning can still be done, but you still need to get a permit if the fire is going to be bigger than a 3x3 and 3-foot high flames. You can burn, the burning permit will have the times you can burn and what type of material you can burn. The permits are free up here at City Hall and can be picked up during normal business hours and that. And then just a note, we are going to be training with the Anoka County Sheriff's Marine Unit on Monday, September 9th from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. We'll be at the Coon Lake County Park access doing this training. So I do believe they're going to plan on having divers in the water at that time, so we ask people to keep that area clear as much as possible.
Is that September 9th? Did you say?
September 9th
Okay.
at 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. we'll be out training with them, learning how to tend their lines and that.
Yep.
Because we do not dive, they do.
And where on Coon Lake again?
They'll be at the Coon Lake County Park access, yep.
Okay.
At the east end of the lake, yeah.
Yep, so, and that's all I got, besides, we'll be watching the weather tonight, because I think we're gonna get sort of busy.
Might get whacked, huh?
Well, we might get busy too, so.
How we doing with heat stroke?
We haven't had any whatsoever
None,
today
huh?
yet. We know it's hot and that,
Wow.
but we haven't
Good.
had any. Any other questions for me?
Not a question, but I wonder if I could ask you to just stay for a few minutes, because when we get into the bills to be paid, there's a question I have that you can answer better than anybody.
I
It's either that or I'll ask you now.
You can ask me now, because I do have to
Okay.
get back to training.
Okay, there's a conference meetings bill in there for $2,779.
Lexipol, that is our online training.
That's your online training?
Online training,
Is that for everybody?
it's for everybody.
Okay,
Yep. It's, during the winter, we use online training, so we don't bring the people out, but that's what it is. It's for
Oh.
online training.
all right.
And
Thanks.
that- And it's
That was
cheaper
all.
than the one we had.
That's the only question I had.
Yep. Anything
Thanks,
else?
chief.
Okay, guys, stay safe tonight and that. See you guys.
Thanks,
All right.
chief.
See ya.
Have a good training session. Okay, is there a public forum?
I believe you still have 4C.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah. So we're gonna vote on this separately as a separate issue, Matt? Is that what the intent is here?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you gonna, do the dialogue on it?
Sure, Mr. Mayor, before you here this evening is the resolution supporting increasing the post-election review, or the PER. There's been a lot of talk about election integrity, and there's the Anoka County Canvassing Board that decides
Well,
what sort of, precincts are going to be, how many precincts are going to be randomly selected, which is out of a hat, and to be counted. Now, as everyone knows, we use paper ballots to vote. They're fed into machines. Machines read them and tabulate them.
all right,
And I believe it's 6 precincts right now. There's a possibility they may increase it to 8. But the 6 precincts essentially are randomly selected, and they verify that the numbers on that are the same as what the machines have tabulated.
Can I interrupt you for a moment? We have a lady here who is on the public forum sign-up sheet.
Speak to this issue, so I don't know whether you want me to speak after the report.
It seems like maybe we just change the order a little bit and let you say what you'd like to say. Is that all right?
If that's, I don't wanna go out of process, I just think that you should know.
I mean, I think we should probably hear what you have to say before we vote on the resolution. Don't you guys agree?
Well, we can just move it.
So,
Make a
Mr.
motion to
Mayor,
move it.
just to summarize, this is, passing a resolution this evening doesn't
It's
force
just a
the-
request.
It's just a
really.
request, it doesn't
We're
force.
requesting from this canvassing board.
Right, to up the numbers, to increase the, you know, the oversight,
Because what is the total number of precincts again?
6.
No, the total number of precincts in Anoka County. So they're sampling like 4, is state law requires 4 per county minimum.
Right.
And the total number is like 128 precincts or something, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't have that exact number
It's a
right off the
lot.
top.
I mean,
but,
4 is a very small sample.
You know, I guess the reality is if, you know, if those that are saying that the machines are kind of changing votes or whatever the case is, I'm not sure the machine would be able to determine even those 4 that are randomly selected to say, we'll keep those ones legit while the other 124 are going to be off. There's been instances, as indicated here, where the most recent Anoka Hennepin District 11 school election, it was less than 0.5%, and so it triggered an automatic recount. And there was one vote in that came out different than the machine because of someone had marked something obscurely on the voting deal. So those type of situations can happen, but they're not going to tip the election in any sort of direction. So.
Well, if it's okay, if I can take a point of privilege here, do you want to come up and give us your comments about it?
Absolutely, because I'm speaking to exactly what Matt's sharing.
Okay, yeah, please.
Before I go on, Mike, I just want you to know my eyes are dilated from an optical.
Oh,
It looks pretty bad. Okay,
okay.
all right. My name is Pamela Kolodji. I live at 485 224th Lane Northeast,
Thank you.
East Bethel. What I'm speaking to is this proposal that you guys are doing. A little bit of background on myself. I've been an election judge for about 30 years. Prior to East Bethel, I was working south of the cities. So I have a lot of experience and a lot of passion about volunteering for election and election results. I am currently and have for several years now volunteered in this facility for all of your elections.
Thank you for doing that.
I have one question before I start, because my answer or the statement that I need to make would vary depending on the answer to this question. So for this agenda item 4C that's under discussion this evening, it's described as doing a hand count / post equals election review for the general election. Are you specifically talking to a post-election review, or are you talking about an election recount? Because those are two very significant different things.
It's referred to as a post-election review,
Okay.
yeah.
Then I know where to start. And this is going to help Matt out,
Okay,
you
good.
hopefully understand what's going on. So Minnesota statute 20689 states that after every state general election, Minnesota counties perform a post-election review of the election results returned by optical scanning ballot machine that's used in the state. The review is a hand count, supporting Matt's information, of the ballots for each eligible election for president, senator, representative, and governor, right? I understand that you guys are looking for a recount of just the front page of the ballot. I'm not quite sure how I understand what you guys are looking to recount or
Yeah,
do
it
a
didn't
post-election
include
review.
judges' elections.
Okay.
Yeah.
It didn't include what?
Did not include judges' elections.
Okay, okay, good to know. So at a canvassing level for the state general elections, the county canvass board will randomly select, yes, it's random, precincts to be reviewed and notify the state of Minnesota, right? The threshold for that is you do 4 precincts, although I think my data is wrong because I got this off the Minnesota state site. If there's more than 100,000 people in the county, they randomly select 4 precincts. I didn't hear about the 6 or the 8, and I'll check into that. Or 3% of the total number of precincts in the county. Anoka County, according to statistics from 2020, has 360,000 citizens, right? And here's the post-auditing information that I wanted to share with you. Andover, Blaine, Fridley, and Ramsey were the ones that was audited in 2020 for a total of 84 individual, and it's done by candidate. They look at every candidate and they hand count all the votes for that candidate, right? The results of that hand count from the machine to the hand count, there were 22 differences. And by the way, I have data. I have pulled it off the state site, and you can see which candidate and for what reason it varies. But I did take some time today, and I tallied up the original hand count, found 22 discrepancies. 12 were ballots marked too light for a candidate. 8 were overvotes, and 2 were ballots marked outside of the oval for a 22 votes. Here's my conclusion in what you guys are trying to take a look at. And this is where I become really, really passionate. We have a woeful lack of volunteers in this city for election judge. Nowhere where I have volunteered have I ever worked longer than an 8-hour shift. And it doesn't matter what party you're at. This is totally, we're not talking party here, right? We start at 6, we get done at 10, unless we need to go farther because we're off a ballot count, right? Or a ballot. 16-hour days. You don't have to take my word for this. Oops. You don't have to take my word for this. It's easy enough to see the election results that I've been talking to, and I would encourage any citizen from East Bethel to do this. Do an easy Google search for election results and audit findings in the state of Minnesota. You can go and you can look at the hard data yourself. It's very easy.
Excuse me 1 minute. Matt, it seems like the generator might be trying to kick on. I don't know
I
if it's
wouldn't be
succeeding.
surprised.
I can check on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe make sure we're still recording too, broadcasting.
If you guys want to see any of this data, I literally pulled out Anoka County from the state side, and I took a look at what the hand counts were, what the totals were, and what the discrepancies were. Again, in conclusion, 22 inaccuracies, all of them explained. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is he making sure it's gonna still record?
I think so, yeah. We look good?
We're going to call it an act of God, but yes, I believe we're still good. The generator is running, so.
Okay. Computer still working?
I think yours went to sleep, but yes, I think it.
Mr. Mayor, if I can just respond. It was 4, as commissioners, we voted to increase it to 6. And they're talking about possibly increasing it to another 2 more to 8, which they can do they can do 100% of it if they want as a canvassing board. The problem is as was, indicated, staffing, people,
Yep,
hours,
yep.
cost. So again, I understand the reason for this. I understand for the ask, and it's somewhat out of our hands in terms of, the decision making, but it's not wrong to ask, so.
Yeah.
It's before you here this evening.
And I did talk to Tom Hunt, who's in charge of Anoka County election process, and got educated by him on this, and it's basically a matter, if you have true randomness, then there's no way for anybody who wants to play with a voting system to really cover themselves. You know, you can't do it because it's random, literally. But I just wanted, I'm promoting this and it's only one precinct, so it's a third of the cost of what we were talking about before, so it's not much. I just want to let people know that East Bethel takes the voting integrity very seriously, and it's just having eyes on. That's all. That's all. Is just letting people know that we're going to be watching, and we'll probably not even be, our request will probably not be granted by the canvassing board. I don't expect it to be, in which case it won't be done. So, but just as a matter of an endorsement of election integrity, which I cannot imagine being a controversial position, I would like to pass this resolution. So that's where I'm coming from. You guys got any questions or comments you want to make about it?
So this is not a request from the county, it's,
This is a request on behalf of East Bethel to the Anoka County Canvassing Board but they don't have to grant the request. And I don't actually expect them to.
A lot of lightning going on.
Oh, yeah.
It's getting dicey out there. Yeah.
Yep.
Stay
If
off
I
the
could,
roads.
Gary, what's your opinion on this? You handle all our elections.
Hi. Please identify yourself.
Identify. Oh, I'm Carrie Frost. I'm the elections coordinator for East Bethel. Like Pam said, we often are, I'm scraping for election judges. Not necessarily for applications, but it's between our budget and the number of applications that we have and having to keep party balance at all of our precincts throughout the entire day. That's where the struggle comes in. It gets to be a lot of moving pieces that we have to balance.
Can I interject something that I learned talking to Tom Hunt? Wow, I'm glad we're in here instead of out there. Ham Lake has 16,500 people, give or take. East Bethel has 12,200 people, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
They have 6 precincts, we have 3.
Correct.
And I think that's part of why it's so taxing, the hours, in addition to being hard to find people, which is what you're talking about.
Well, and
I don't know why that is.
it
do you
being
know?
hard to find people, that the number of precincts we have isn't necessarily going to make a difference on how many judge
Right.
applications we get in, because
No,
it's
no.
citywide. We have, in the past, I've kind of poked around at looking at adding a 4th precinct because of the number of registered voters that we have per
Yeah.
precinct.
Yeah.
We used to be down right around the 2,000 voter mark. Now we're right up around 2,500 per precinct. Which
in
is
terms of people who actually vote. huh?
correct,
Okay,
correct.
okay.
I think citywide, we have just over 8,000 registered voters. Which, you know, if we could split it up evenly, that would, you know, make a 4th precinct quite
Yeah.
easily, and we would still be sitting around 2,000 voters per precinct. The trouble.
Do you
where
have
we-
any idea why we have such trouble finding people to serve as election judges? What, I have to
we
pay you
have
to get
not-
the answer? Is that what you're telling me?
We
I'm not gonna
haven't,
tell
we
you.
haven't increased our judge wages in quite a while. And we are bottom of the barrel.
Really?
Amongst
Well, then
other
that's probably-
municipalities within the county.
Well, that's probably something we need to address.
Yep. And, so between applications and, you know, pay scale, but not all of our judges do it for the pay. Most of our judges do not.
Yeah, it's a patriotic duty, yeah.
Right. I think part of it is because it's the long day. I mean,
Yeah,
16 hours
Yeah, that's
is
a long day,
insane day.
yeah.
And this is the first year that I've been considering trying to do shifts for the general election because
Yeah.
the turnout's gonna be crazy. In a presidential election year, turnout is always
Yeah.
much, much higher. And, you know, anything that's hotly contested always brings people out of the woodwork.
Yep.
And with the idea that we're going to have such a large turnout and it's going to be all day long, our judges are gonna get burned out at the halfway point. So this is the first time I've considered doing shifts. We're scraping to see if I can fill 2 shifts of election judges at all 3 precincts. To be fully staffed, I usually try and have 8 judges per shift. So that way if somebody has to take a break, we're not left with a station unmanned.
Right.
But that means, well, head judges and assistant head judges are legally required to work all day. So that leaves 6 judges that have to rotate for the shifts. So that means I have to have 14 judges per precinct. We have 3 precincts. So we're looking at 42 judges that I have to try to recruit just for a regular election cycle. And I work that, try to keep that into the budget that's, you know, set the year before for training and hours served and all that good stuff. And then adding any additional hours that are required to serve are only gonna chip away at that budget that we've got so far. And this was a 3-election year, because we had the presidential nomination primary in March, the state primary that we just finished on the 13th,
Yeah.
and then, yeah, we have the general coming